Can you hear me? There we go. Thanks for coming to Mesa and supporting bikes. We have our newest Desert Trails bike park that we just opened in November of 14. And so I have a few slides to talk about the process we went through and some of the features that we have there. It's on the northeast corner of McDowell and Wrecker, so just right off the 202 freeway, and surrounded on three sides by homes. So the city had a parcel of land, actually had a hill with a water tank on it. It's been sitting there. We bought it in 1979 for the water reservoir, and it sat there for a long time, completely fenced off. Folks from the neighborhood had social trails that they built through there. Warren, the homes, pretty high-end, high dollar value homes, pretty used to having a vacant parcel behind their houses for wildlife viewing and their own personal trails. And a few things started to be discussed over the years. We thought make a nice location for a park. Our economic development office thought it'd make a nice location for a hotel. Thought about letting the hotel go out on the corner and putting a trail on the backside. Lots of different things were discussed. But in 2011, 2012, we started to talk to the community about putting together a parks bond package. We hadn't had an active parks bond program since the late 90s. And so we started going through meetings throughout the city to talk about what people were interested in paying for through a bond program for park development. And turning this parcel, the whole parcel, all 35 acres of it, into a park came up pretty high on priority level there. And so we started to develop some concepts before the election on putting in a trail system. So that's what that image is up here. This is what it looked like before we started developing it. Like I said, completely fenced off, some power lines, gate, pretty ugly from the street side, but I know a lot of people were using it from the neighborhood. It also became a pretty active dump site for construction debris, so a lot of that accumulated, especially down toward the lower corner there. So in 2013, this was after the Parks Bond was approved by voters in November of 2012. 2013, we had a whole bunch of volunteers and Eagle Scouts and Gravity Riders Organization of Arizona came out and did a big cleanup effort, got lots and lots of loads of trash out of there, tires, construction debris. So that was a good start. We also started that summer with the design. So we worked with Norris Design, which is a landscape architecture firm, and Alpine Bikes, and came up with the concept of creating the different levels of flow trails up on the peak up here. Water tank is still back and fenced off in the back of the parcel there. And for the neighborhood, maintaining a perimeter trail for walking dogs, riding bikes, hiking, whatever you want to do in there, and a trail that goes up to the peak. So by a year later, we were finished with design. Seemed like it took forever. Had a couple more neighborhood meetings. Went through a lot of opposition by those homeowners that were right up against the fence, not wanting to have people looking into their backyards. A few of them sold their homes. And reached agreement on, we have a fairly sizable buffer up here. It's about 150 feet from any of their back walls. We kept the parking lot pretty far away from any of the surrounding homes. And we didn't put any reason to linger up on the top of the hill. So there's no shade up there, there's no benches. It's just trail goes up and then you launch down into the flow trails. We started in summer of 2014. Altogether, it's about 1.5 miles of trail through all the different trails that we built. We have space for some additional trails in here that we ended up cutting out because we ran out of funding, but it's definitely a possibility to spruce the park up in the future with future phases like that. We have a restroom. It's about 30 spaces in that parking lot, a couple of picnic ramadas, and a youth skills track that we built with the project. We had plans to put in a pump track with our construction funding and ran short, but GrowAZ came in and finished that design and constructed that right at the end of our construction period, so that was great. Altogether, for design and construction, we spent $990,000. Pretty pricey, but it was all done except for that pump track through contract work. So I have a few handouts in the back that have the trail map in there if anybody's interested, which has this information and information about the different levels of trail. So we have the skills track. It does have molded wood features, ramps, it's a teeter-totter in there. It's supposed to be small for smaller bikes, but everybody rides on that. It's just a real small, tight little pump track type loop. A couple different lines through it. And then the pump track that the volunteers built. There's many, many different ways to ride through this. It's about 3 layers deep, and it also has a little kids area off to the side. That is all dirt. The first flow trail is the easy one. It goes down the less steep area and does not have any of the wood ramps or jumps. You don't catch air on this on purpose. And anybody can ride down that. You could do one of those Strider bikes or anything down that line. And the cool thing is the kids on the skills track can sit and watch the folks going down that one too. Right above that is the intermediate line, so we call that squirrel catcher. This one, again, you could mostly keep your wheels on the ground if you wanted to, but there are a few points that kind of tower over that easier trail. Makes it nice to interact because they're right all in a row next to each other. And then the crazy one that's hard to even walk down it is the double black diamond flow trail. So that does have gap jumps and wood features and pretty intimidating launch to start at the top. It's the only one that starts up at the top of the hill. That intermediate one's about partway down, and then like I said, the beginner one's just right above the skills track. And then in addition to that is the perimeter trail, a couple of views from the top of the hill. So our parking lot, our skills track is in here, the pump track's down here. A couple of ramadas in the restroom building. And then this is back down to the corner of McDowell and Record. So this is where that dump area was, all cleaned up. Got the perimeter trail coming in here. This is the end of the Black Diamond Trail, and then it circles on around and merges in with the other 2 trails. In terms of maintenance, this is the only park we have like this. The rest of them, sports fields, grassy parks, picnic areas, playgrounds. We had no idea what we were getting into with this. So what we thought was just adding a few hours of staff time. We added just cleanup time to our schedule has turned into, we send 2 staff out there every day, Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day, watering down each trail, grooming the trails. They go through rebuilding efforts as the lines get moved or shifted by people either riding or doing their own construction efforts on the weekends. We have signs up all over the place for people to please not ride when it rains, but they do, and so we also, after rainstorms, spend quite a bit of time rebuilding that. And what started as just compacted dirt, we're now mixing in quarter minus granite, soil tack. It ends up being groomed a lot like our sports fields infields are, so definitely takes a whole lot of coordination and attention to detail for the staff that are out there every day. We had volunteers helping us with that back in fall of 2014. It's pretty much, we've moved on to other projects, so for the most part it's city staff that are out there doing that now. Open sunrise to sunset, so it's definitely not lit, and we try hard to get people out of there at sunset, but it's also not locked, so go down there on a full moon, good luck. That's about it. Like I said, I have maps in the back if you're interested.
So you had Groaz build the pump track, and there's two general big pieces of liability there that I'm aware of. One is when they were working building it, should anybody sustain an injury or whatever, then after the fact, they can't demonstrate necessarily a body of work that could back up. Should somebody fall off one of their jumps and hurt themselves from the jump they built, how did you guys handle the liability with having them work
Yeah.
and then after the fact?
While they were constructing, it was still an active construction site, and so Valley Rain, our contractor, supported that effort. They knew that we would be bringing volunteers on site while they were there, and so it came under their insurance umbrella. Roy's, had to provide insurance too, but
Sure.
the contractor accepted that liability, and now the city of Mesa does. So we're self-insured. We don't have to get approval from a different insurance agency, and city council decided, just like our climbing tower at Riverview or some of the other things that we're kind of pushing the limits on what's acceptable in public parks, they accepted this too.
So basically, the council was okay with the idea that whatever work they accepted that liability. Was
Right.
that
And we don't have, like I said, we don't have any of the wood jumps down in the pump track. We have them on the skills track that was engineered and installed according to contractor standards, and on 2 of the flow trails. And we do inspections on those, just like we do on playgrounds or sports fields or any of our other active recreation sites.
Yeah, our county attorney and risk managers were very concerned in advance that whoever we hired, they could go back at the end of somebody were injured, we could show a huge amount of evidence for using every best practice and every, we can only hire pro bike builders, or bike park builders, which is more expensive to say the least.
Right.
How's your usage of the park been compared to what you thought as far as ridership?
Much busier.
That's what I've heard.
Much busier, yeah. We're hearing people are coming in just to go there from outside of town, and yeah, it's packed every weekend.
So that facility is actually world known already from the BMX industry. We have many people come in from out of the country to ride. So it's an understatement to think about just how much tourism goes into a lot of these facilities. But just out of curiosity, do you intend, or do you know if the city intends to do programs out of that facility?
We don't right now. Our program's budget is pretty limited. That $70 million bond package really infused a lot into our park side, but almost nothing into our program side. And so it's still just open for drop-in use, and that's about it.
Since the flow trails are for different skill levels, are they signed kind of like ski slopes?
They are, yep, at the top and the bottom, so that people don't walk up. And they're bike only. You're not supposed to be on foot on them either.
Another question, have you had many complaints about kids being injured, and how has the city responded to a lot of that?
More from the fire department than from residents. So just like a skate park, a kid does something, pushes the limit, breaks a leg, breaks an arm. Sometimes we hear about it, sometimes we don't, but they tend to go home and deal with it there. Unless there was some reason that there was negligence on the part of the city. Fire department has been very concerned about this. If you've been out to that site, there's no access from going southbound on Record. You have to be going northbound. And fire department's not real happy about that. We hope someday if that road gets redone to be able to fix that, but it's outside of the scope of what we had. I will say the first few weeks of being open, we had more injury call-outs to the fire department from our staff learning how to maintain it than from the users.
I was just say, our biggest issue that I'm aware of with injuries isn't kids so much as dads.
Trying to outdo these kids.
Yeah, that's not a kid.
Yeah. But that's also why we keep a really close eye on the lines going through the jumps, because they do shift and suddenly you're launching into a tree, whereas before you were another foot over and you were still on the trail, so.
Yeah, I have one more question. You said you had staff out there that's maintaining it 40 hours a week.
Right.
Are they certified in any particular way?
No.
Trained by INDA?
No.
to,
No, it's been a learning process. So we have all the specs on what we gave our contractor from Alpine Bikes on how to build it, and their job is to make sure that it stays to those specs.